We had the commander-in-chief blowing up big tech on his favorite social media app earlier this morning, starting with Google. President Trump echoing billionaire tech advisor Peter Thiel's national security concerns, tweeting, quote, "There may or may not be national security concerns with regard to Google and the relationship with China. Now, if there is a problem, we will find out about it, and I sincerely hope there is not." But it didn't stop there. The president went on to blast Apple, tweeting, quote, "Apple will not be given tariff waiver or relief for Mac Pro parts that are made in China. Make them in the USA. No tariffs." So here for reaction, we have Mobile Nation's managing editor Derek Kessler, along with Wall Street Journal reporter Dan Gallagher. Derek, let's start with Google, shall we? Because I feel like there's more news there, given that we had the Trump tweet. We also had some pretty good earnings and a $25 billion buyback in shares as well. So Google, I mean, it doesn't seem like the stock is trading any of these concerns about a possible breakup and antitrust review.
No, I mean, Google's in a really good position, and they've had a lot of work that they put in to help sort of insulate themselves as much as they can on the antitrust side. Although there are still concerns there because they are very powerful when it comes to their presence on the web. They're synonymous with search nowadays, and their business is entirely driven by advertising. There are those antitrust concerns that they should have, but they aren't really priced into the stock because what are you going to do if you try and break up any one part of the business? It doesn't work anymore.
Okay, so you don't think a breakup is on the cards, right, for Google? That's what I'm hearing from you, Derek.
No, it seems kind of unlikely to me.
Okay, well, let's also talk about Apple then, Dan, because the Wall Street Journal is the one that first reported that they were going to shift production of the MacBook Pro over to China. Now, Apple, I've been in contact with them. They haven't actually confirmed this news, but this is not a big revenue driver for Apple. So what if this specialized laptop goes to China? It doesn't mean that many jobs, especially when they're bringing back billions of dollars here.
That's exactly right. And this is also not a new criticism from the president towards Apple about the production that they have offshore. Most of their products are created offshore. And this is an enormous supply chain. We're talking about hundreds of factories for not only assembly of the products, but making components. All that couldn't move to the U.S. in any kind of short term or even medium term, even if Apple wanted to do that. So I don't see that really happening. And the MacBook itself, you know, if it gets tariffs, if the price goes up with tariffs, probably that's an audience that's a little less price sensitive. What is a more interesting question to me is that what if the upcoming iPhone this year, if those prices go up due to tariffs? It's already expected to be a weak year for iPhone sales.
Right.
Does Apple pass that price through to customers or not? You know, we don't know the answer to that yet, but that'll be a more impactful question for them.
Well, how much more can they boost the prices? Already at 4 digits, my goodness. So, Derek, let's get back to you because I want to talk about Amazon as well. And Amazon actually broke, I think, their streak of record profits. And are we back to those years, you know, where Amazon was just reinvesting into its business and not making money once again? And does that make this stock a $2,000 valuation?
You are right that they are going back into investing in their business. They just announced that they're investing $800 million into improving their delivery infrastructure because it turns out that the 2-day Prime delivery that they had isn't much of a differentiator anymore. All of their larger competitors are offering that now, and so they need to amp it up. And that means 1-day delivery, which means a massive new infrastructure investment in the form of new warehouses and technology and the delivery infrastructure to handle all of that. And that's going to cost them a lot of money in the short term and in the long term. The question is whether that translates into more sales and more Prime customers, because that's a very large revenue driver for them. As for the stock price, I mean, it's all a question of what the shareholders think it's worth.
Right. Well, the shareholders think it's worth a lot, and so do the analysts. Dan, let's just quickly talk about Facebook because, you know, we just got this tweet from President Trump about matching the France digital tax, which notably, by the way, affects Facebook since I think it's retroactive and is about 2% of their revenues that they have made in the country. And despite the fact that Facebook has paid a $5 billion FTC fine, look at the stock this week. I mean, earnings were stellar. This stock is going nowhere but up, it seems.
Yeah, I think Facebook investors have been pretty resilient to all the negative headlines that have gone on. I mean, this has been more than a year where you've had hardly a week goes by without some critical story or a lawmaker promising a hearing or something. And so I think for Facebook investors, they tend to look at how does the business actually perform.
Yeah.
And it's been very resilient. The advertising revenues keep going up, users keep coming in. I don't think the business is foolproof in this respect. They have to spend a lot more in cost to, I think, reflect the realities of running the business with a lot more scrutiny. But it's still a very profitable business, and I think investors tend to key towards that more than these hard to value types of risks of potential laws that may or may not come around.
Yeah, one more question. Derek, let's talk about Twitter, because I was so surprised by the number of users, first of all, that are sticking with Twitter. In fact, I think they saw a record number. Daily actives went up. And wouldn't you say, Derek, that some would say the President Trump himself, has saved this social media site single-handedly?
I wouldn't be surprised if we could attribute a large portion of Twitter's recent success to his presence on there. And a lot of celebrities and politicians, it's become essentially their own personal PR outlet. They can go on and tweet whatever they want, and they don't have to go through any sort of official channels or get press releases to be covered by the media. They can just put it out on Twitter and get directly to the people who are interested in following them, and then eventually gets picked up on the news by all of us.
It's what we call unfiltered, right?
How much that has actually influenced their bottom line, I'm not sure.